team, Anna here, makeup creator, teacher, and educator, specifically for people with hooded eyes, oily and textured skin, 30 plus skin. We love everything makeup on this channel. Welcome back. Welcome to my annual Natasha Denona Eyeshadow Palettes rankings. Oh my god, one of my favorite videos to do ever. I am so excited. Natasha Denona is my absolute favorite eyeshadow palette brand, and I have a ton of their eyeshadow palettes. I bought everything myself besides 2 eyeshadow palettes, I believe. I will mention that in the rankings, and I am a huge fan of the brand. I do have a code with them. It's Anastasia 15. So if you want to purchase anything off of the Natasha Denona website, please use my code. It will help out my channel, but I will not mention it again. We will just talk about the palettes. So this is going to be your rankings. I have some of the bigger palettes, a ton of midi palettes, and some of the minis. I didn't want to include minis in this rankings because I just feel it's not really fair. I wouldn't put them high. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's only 3 or 5, rude. It's only 3 or 5 or whatever shades. So I will just show you my mini collection and then we'll get into the rankings. So I think that would be fair. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. Go grab yourself a beverage, some tea or some coffee or some wine, and let's dive right in. Here are some of the minis or like smaller palettes that I own, everything besides the bigger ones and the midi palettes. Let's just go through them. This is not a rankings. I'm just gonna show you all of these. We're gonna start with the super mini Biba palette. This was, I believe, a couple years back. This was released as a little holiday eyeshadow palette. She does that quite often. This was a really nice trio for a classic everyday type of brown eyeshadow look, and I love this one. I just recently filmed a declutter. I don't know if this video is going to go up before that one, but I did declutter one Natasha Denona eyeshadow palettes, the mini gold eyeshadow palette. I did declutter it because an eyeshadow broke in that one. I just knew I'm not gonna press it back. I'm not gonna use it. I might as well just buy a new one if I want colors like that in my collection. But yeah, I decluttered that one. Other than that, I will never declutter an eyeshadow palette by Natasha Denona because I'm a huge fan, and unless like it breaks, I'm not gonna declutter it. Yeah, just wanted to mention that. Then we have this eyeshadow palette. This is the Jubilee eyeshadow palette. It's a bunch of different shades from her older, bigger palettes. This I got in a boxy charm many years ago, so you cannot really purchase this one, but you can find all of these shades. I found the color story extremely confusing. Like, combining all of 5 of these shades on the eye just will not look good. But you can come up with a really nice blue look or really nice pink look, and this shade is really good matte transition shade. So yeah, this is one of the palettes. Then we have the Natasha Denona Mini Triochrome palette. This is kind of like a new row to the Triochrome palette you will see come up in this video. A blue row with a little duochrome over here. I can't even call it a triochrome because it's not. Good quality blue eyeshadow is really nice, but I don't reach for it often because I don't do blue eyeshadow that often. I should. It looks good on me. Then we have the Mini Pastel eyeshadow palette. It was basically what I grabbed when I didn't want to pick up the Midi Pastel eyeshadow palette. I just knew I wouldn't use those shades very often, and this is like a good palette of pop of color palette. You know what I'm trying to say? Pop of color eyeshadow palette that I would take as a companion palette to like a neutrals palette when I go traveling. This is what I love using this guy for. Then we have the Mini Rose eyeshadow palette. This is a really nice romantic pinky color story eyeshadow palette. Great quality, nice muted mauvey brownie shades. Creates a really gorgeous eyeshadow look, but not much variety. You know what I mean? And then lastly, I have this guy here. So this is the Natasha Denona Rose and Wood eyeshadow palette. I believe you cannot purchase this. I just got this in a recent Ipsy bag, and it is really beautiful. It has gorgeous neutrals, deep brown shade, some pops of pink and champagne colors, and I've heard that there might be a Rose and Wood midi eyeshadow palette coming out possibly next year from the brand, which is just some gossip. I don't know anything about it, but somebody told me that that might happen, and I'm excited because this color story, this looks really pretty. I have not tried this palette yet. Like, it's completely new, untouched. I really want to, and if I envision a midi palette with these colors and this color story, it actually looks really nice. So I will definitely buy it when it's out. But yeah, this is my entire mini collection, and we're gonna get into the rankings right now. Number 17, it feels so weird putting such like loved by the people palette on the lowest place in today's rankings video. This is just my personal opinion, and I am really into cool tones. So the Natasha Denona Bronze Eyeshadow Palette is not one of my favorites. As you can see, it's barely used. I think I used it a couple times. Sometimes I do go for these warmer shades during the summer or fall season. I did not this year. I will try and use it a little bit more just because the shades are honestly gorgeous. Like the warmer burgundies and the bronze tones and all of the different kinds of shimmers and textures here. Honestly, this palette is amazing. And if I love warm tones, I would really like it and I would recommend it. But I'm really into cool tones and I did not buy this palette myself. This was gifted to me by the brand at one of the, well, not one of the only event that we had here in Chicago with Natasha Denona when she came to visit us and introduce her new product back in 2023, I want to say. Yeah. And yeah, this was the gift. Honestly, amazing gift. And I'm super grateful that I have this palette, but it's just not my favorite color story. That's why I've never purchased it myself. And that's why it's on number 17. This is a little bit unfair because the next three palettes are like face and eye palettes. And I just think that that's not the strongest part of the brand, Natasha Denona, because these are fun, but I don't think they're ever like sold out, best of the best. Like people are trying to get it, you know, people need it. It's never the most loved product, so I don't know why they keep coming out with these, but I mean, I'm that person who buys them all, so I guess the questions are to me. So 16, we have the Natasha Denona Love Face Palette that she signed on that very event when I met her, and we got a little cheek duo here with a bubblegum blush and a highlighter and 5 eyeshadows in this palette. Now this format works for me when I take it traveling with me because I do get some cheek products and some eye products, and this goes on number 16 solely because of the color story. Like it's a pink eyeshadow palette. I'm not gonna want to travel with a pink eyeshadow palette that often. I do take it with me sometimes because this shimmer shade Affinity is out of this world. This is also a really nice transition shade and the pinks are fun, you know, so I do take it traveling sometimes, but more often than not I will just get this shade Affinity out of here because Natasha Denona palettes are magnetic, and I will rearrange all of my midi size palettes and create a color story that I want to take traveling with me. So that's kind of how I use it mostly when I pick out some shades from my favorite palettes and put it in one palette. But yeah, this was a fun one and forever a very, very special one for me because I also did not pay for this palette. I received it in PR from Natasha Denona. I don't receive PR from them anymore, but just like a couple times they sent me some stuff. So I was super, super grateful for this. And this was a fun one. Number 16. Number 15 is another face palette. This was actually their first face palette. It's called the Glam Face Palette. This was a super smart launch from them because they did come out with 2 palettes, the lighter version and the deeper version, which I don't know why they don't do that now. I really liked that, and I have the lighter version. So this also comes with a cream blush and a highlight and then 5 shadows. This is a neutral eyeshadow palette, so it creates a really beautiful brown look with these like nice oiled eyeshadows. I adore the formula of shimmers in these face palettes. Really gorgeous. Like honestly, I would take this one traveling over the pink one because it's neutral and because it's a little bit more versatile that way, and that's why it is on number 15. 14, the last kind of eye and face palette from the brand and the newest. This is the Hyper Natural Face Palette, and the only reason why it's higher than the other two is because I actually adore the bronzer and the blush in this palette. Now the fact that there are 3 different shades of bronzer and the pans are super tiny and you can't really get just one of those, I literally just mix them all and it works for me. But the fact that makes it a little bit less versatile, as in they only came out with this one palette. They don't have another one for deeper complexions that looks just like this. I wish they did that. That would have been better. But again, I am ranking these according to my own experience with the palette, and I did really enjoy the formula of this bronzer. Actually, I do want them to come out with singles like this. Maybe they will next year. They should. And then the blush is also really nice. The eyeshadows are okay. They're kind of one and done eyeshadow palette for you to grab it with your finger and pat it on your eye. I'm not that type type of person. I do a full glam almost all the time, so this is not my type of eyeshadow look, but they're quite decent, and this shade is really nice and reflective. So yeah, 15. 15? No. Oh my god, I'm already messing this up. 17, 16, 15. This is 14. Number 13. We have some old ones here, okay? And this is one of the two that are a little bit larger. So this is the Natasha Denona Circo Loco eyeshadow palette. A very, very colorful one. I hope the brand comes out with something like this soon because it's been a while. And mine is rearranged because at some point I was really into like doing little color stories in the palettes, and it actually looks really nice. So yeah, this is a super, super colorful eyeshadow palette that you only use, again, probably with another neutral palette or when you want to go for something really colorful. So whenever I'm thinking like turquoise or blue or purple look, I honestly reach for these shades quite often. I love the quality on this. I love how fun this is. That's why it falls higher than some of the other palettes. And just in general, it's very unique, and color stories like this don't come out very often these days. So yeah, this is 13. Number 12, and this is a palette that came out this year, and it ranks quite low. For the same reason that the bronze palette is on number 17. So this is number 12, and it's Natasha Denona I Need a Warm Eyeshadow Palette. Again, warm color story, not necessarily for me, not the biggest fan. This shade is broken, so I can't really show you the color story very well, but you get the gist of it. It's just a warm eyeshadow palette. It's a little bit better than the bronze because bronze really just had burnt oranges. This one is truly a neutral warm brown palette, and it has a really incredible multi-chrome eyeshadow shade. I absolutely love this. I don't know if camera can pick this up, but this shade, for this one shade, this palette ranks quite high, number 12, because it's so unique and so beautiful. Other than that, I don't really reach for this at all, besides when it came out, and I really liked playing with it, and especially with this duochrome shadow. But yeah, nothing to say about it. I'm not about the warm tones and colors, so this is number 12. 11. Who remembers this guy? This probably came out in 2022, I want to say. Natasha Denona Retro Glam Eyeshadow Palette. She came out with this for Christmas, claiming that this was a retro Christmassy color story. I do not see it for the life of me. I see a springy flowers, greenery color story, pastel, spring. I don't know. This is what it's giving. Nonetheless, that's not the point really. I do love how unique this is. I don't think I have another eyeshadow palette that really has muted greens and pinks and then some hint of cool tones and really, really nice reflective shimmers as well. It is a very, very unique eyeshadow palette with really nice shimmers. Now, in terms of an eyeshadow look, yes, I will reach for it if I want a minty eyeshadow look, but that's pretty much it. It's not really user-friendly in my case. Like, I don't reach for it a lot, but I do appreciate it, and I think it's really inspiring. That's why it ranks so high. Number 10, this is one of the two, well, 10 and 9 are going to be the two eyeshadow palettes that were my first eyeshadow palettes that I bought from Natasha Denona. I just moved to the country. I really wanted to try something from their brand, and they had a buy 2 for 1 Black Friday sale, I believe, on these two. So I grabbed them, and I really, really love these palettes. This is the Sunrise eyeshadow palettes. I believe it was also a first midi eyeshadow palette that the brand has come out with, which was really, really amazing because the bigger one cost was $120 or something like that. The smaller ones were $65 at the time, which just meant that more people could afford to try these palettes. And this one is also rearranged. How pleasing is this rearranged color story though? I love it. Even though this is a warm eyeshadow palette, to me this is not a neutral warm eyeshadow palette. This is a colorful warm eyeshadow palette. I'm a sucker for pinks and burgundies, so I love this color story. I don't know if that makes sense, like that I hate on the bronze palette but I love the Sunrise palette. Hopefully it does. Yeah, I love colorful eyeshadows. So these, like, these shades create a really beautiful sunrise or sunset look, and the shimmers are really unique, and there's some beautiful duochromes here. I guess it's a little bit outdated, and you know, it's been out for 5 years now, but I still love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Number 9, so this is the other palette I bought along with the Sunrise palette. This is the Natasha Denona Love palette. It also came out in 2020, I want to say, and this is a beautiful Valentine's Day inspired color story. It did come out on Valentine's Day, if I'm not mistaken. We have pinks, golds, burgundies, purples here, silvers as well. And that's what I love about it. It leans really pink, but at the same time, you could create a purple look with this palette, or you could create a little bit of a golden look with this palette. I think this palette is really versatile, and looking back at some of the makeup looks I created with this, it's really, really pretty. Like the things you can do with this palette, I just really, really love. Even though the eyeshadow formula on this was definitely not as good as some of the newer palettes, because they have just upped their formula and now it's really, really amazing. It used to be really good still, and like nothing on the market was this good, but at the same time, you can see the difference between this palette and like the next one that I show you that came out last year. But I still really, really love this palette, and it's holds such a special place in my heart because it was one of the first Natasha Denona palettes that I ever purchased, and still to this day, if I think of a pink or red eyeshadow look, I reach for this. So this is a really, really good one. Number 8, I truly believe this falls on number 8 just because it is a newer launch. So this is the Natasha Denona Xenon eyeshadow palette, a completely black and white color story. Lots of grays, lots of different textures. At first, I was a little bit bored when I looked at it. I was like, well, it's a palette for a two-tone smoky eye, but what's more to it? Then I created an everyday look with it using these 2 shades. I created some silver smokies. I created some matte looks, and this is really much more versatile than I thought. And if you are a person who likes like really cool tones like grays and dark shades, you would really enjoy it, and silvers too. I want to mention though that there isn't a matte black eyeshadow here, which just wasn't good. I think it's a necessity in this palette. Like, you should have put a matte black eyeshadow here. I don't care that Mini Xenon has it, this one needs it too, because that's something that's lacking from this palette. But at the same time, it's really fun that this shade leans blue, this shade leans pink sometimes, this one leans green. Like, there's really nice tones in this palette, and again, different textures. I really enjoyed playing with it. It came out this year, so I do have a dedicated review on this on my channel. I did only start taking YouTube seriously this year, in case you didn't know. So the palettes that I reviewed, like the Hyper Glam Face Palette and this palette, I will link down below so you could watch those reviews if you were interested. But yeah, if you're into dark grays and black smokies, then yeah, grab this one. It's really nice. But other than that, you could definitely skip this launch. Number 8, and this is the newest launch to date from the brand. This was their kind of holiday launch. Natasha Denona Roxa eyeshadow palette. The packaging is amazing. Incredible triochrome effect, right? I love it so much. And this one is so high up also just because it's a new launch. I wasn't really impressed with this launch, and I wasn't the biggest fan because I don't see holidays here. I just see a purple eyeshadow palette that is frankly a little bit boring for me. I would expect more from the brand, but because of the different textures and really interesting tones here, and because it's a newer launch, I do place it so high up, and every time I look at it, I'm like, I have not played with it enough. I really do want to play a little bit more with it. Let me just swatch some shades for you, and I guess for me, I want to look at some. Yeah, so really interesting shades and tones and shimmers. Like, this is what is interesting to me, because a purple matte, yes, while they are incredible quality purple mattes, but you can't wow me with a purple matte anymore. I just want to say that. I am a picky customer when it comes to Natasha Denona. I expect a lot from the brand because I love them. And this was not my favorite launch, but I need to play more with it. It's like I have a toxic relationship with this palette. I'm like, I like you and I want to play with you, but at the same time, like, you're boring and I don't like you. I don't know if that makes sense. Number 8. So this is the opposite of what I just showed you. Actually, the packaging, like the color of it and the triochrome effect is quite similar. So yeah, this is the Natasha Denona Triochrome eyeshadow palette, which is the second of the 2 large palettes that I have. And this is an old palette and an old launch, but it falls on number 7 because of how good and unique the color story is. This is what I call an interesting color story. While the other palette was completely purple, this gives me the most unique matte shades in my entire collection. There's no other palette that I can open up and see this unique of mossy greens with a really brightening mint shade, or these muted purples. Like, it's just so unique in my opinion. I'm not even talking about the triochromes here that I call duochromes because they're barely even duochromes. I mean, not to hate on this palette. It was good for the times and I still love it, and it falls on number 6 because I love it that much, but I don't love it because of the shimmers. They are just okay compared to the indie eyeshadow brands that you can find nowadays and purchase their incredible trio chromes. Yeah, this is nothing compared to that. But I love this palette for the mattes because they're so unique and beautiful and blendable, and I just find this color story so inspiring. This is color but like muted and done right. It's a really unique and beautiful palette. I wish it got more love. I really don't hear people talk about it anymore. I don't even think you can purchase it anymore, to be honest, but I'm really happy that I do have it because I truly love it. Okay, I've probably messed up the count somewhere there because I don't write stuff down when I should, but we have only 5 eyeshadow palettes left. They are all midi eyeshadow palette size and they'll look kind of like the same on the outside, but they're not. They're very different, and I'm super excited to show you my top 5 favorite palettes from my favorite brand, Natasha Denona. So we have the golden eyeshadow palette, which is a palette she came out with this year. This year I was not really happy with their launches, eyeshadow palette specifically. I did like their powder foundation, I did like their highlighters, I did like their lip stuff, but like the eyeshadow palettes were kind of like not giving. So this is the highest ranked eyeshadow palette that came out this year, and this was in my best of 2024 video just because I wanted to mention something by the brand, but it's not that good. That sounded so rude, but you know what I mean. The Natasha Denona golden eyeshadow palette. So for those of you who know the old original gold eyeshadow palette, she basically took out some shades from that palette and created a new one because that one is discontinued, and this is what it looks like. Lots of golds, lots of neutrals, lots of browns. I do like it because the shimmers are truly different. You can create a bronzy eyeshadow look or a very sparkly warm gold or a like old gold type of look, or you can even use this really gorgeous duochrome shimmer, or you could do a matte look. I don't know, I find this a little bit more versatile than say like I need a warm eyeshadow palette. For some reason I just enjoy these textures and shades a little bit more, so yeah, that's why it's on number 5. And because it's a newer launch, like in a year, I can tell you that much, this will not be this high up. This will be a little lower for sure. Number 4. So last year was actually the year when the brand has come out with some of my absolute favorite products. This was one of those products, the Yucca eyeshadow palette. What a beautiful and unique color story. Isn't this just so gorgeous? You have beautiful browns here, warm tones, even a little bit of cool tones, and then pops of greens and orange. I find this color story so unique and so inspiring that this is kind of what I wanted from the Roxa eyeshadow palette. Like, yes, let it be purple, but like I would call this eyeshadow palette green, but it's not green, you know what I mean? There's also oranges here and yellows and browns, so that's what I wanted from Roxa. I wanted it to be primarily pink, but also have some other shades, but it doesn't. It basically has like some pinks. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but that's how I feel about it. This palette though, it's so pretty. It's perfect for summer and fall. I reach for it a lot. I love creating just like an everyday mossy green look with it, with eyeshadow wing using this deep brown shade. Because the shimmers are so reflective and so impactful in this palette, like it's all about the shimmers for me, even though the mattes are so good, but the shimmers are just so much better. I'm gonna swatch 4 of my favorite shimmers for you. I should have done it for every palette from like on the top 5 palette, but let's start with this one. So you see how different they are. We have like a gunmetal shade, we have a beautiful duochrome, we have a green, we have a gold. They are such amazing formula and just a good variety. This looks like I've never swatched this. Wait, I want to swatch it now. Okay, it's just a metallic. The others are like more reflective and more sparkly. So yeah, amazing palette. I love these shades. Such a good colorful launch from the brand, and I love the matte, sleek matte packaging too. It doesn't look dirty compared to all of the other palettes. But yeah, number 4, Yucca palette. We are moving into the top 3 eyeshadow palettes in my Natasha Denona eyeshadow palette collection. There are some things about them that are similar, as in there's cool tones in all 3 of them. There are some things about them that are different. I am still undecided between places 2 and 1. But let's deal with number 3 first. Number 3, the Natasha Denona retro eyeshadow palette. I still remember when I saw a leak of this palette. There was a period of time where all of their palettes were leaked, and I was unimpressed, and I thought that I might even skip this launch, which is so funny to me now because it has become such a favorite of mine. This is 100% my most used Natasha Denona eyeshadow eyeshadow palette. So this is the color story, and it is a beautiful vintage taupe pink burgundy muted browns color story. I don't even know how to describe it. It is so luxurious and so versatile and so beautiful. I am absolutely in love with this. I love burgundies on my brown eyes, so I absolutely always reach for this palette if I want like a burgundy look. I love the cool tones that this matte shade and this shimmer shade bring. This was my go-to everyday look for a very long time, with this bright matte in the inner corner. This is my most used Natasha Denona single eyeshadow shade of all time. So good, so good. I love that it has warm options, even though I'm not the biggest fan of warms, but yeah, pinks as well. This was just such a favorite of mine. I absolutely adore this eyeshadow palette, and if you like these like vintage taupey like pinky burgundy vibes, highly recommend it. What a good eyeshadow palette. That was an amazing launch. That was back in like 2019. I want to, no, that couldn't have been 2019, 2021. That's what it was, 2021. All right, top two. I like have to look at them and make a decision. Which one is number one and which one is number two? Number two is going to be the Natasha Denona My Dream Eyeshadow Palette. And if you ask me tomorrow, this might be my number one. So this is the way Natasha described it, a palette like her dream eyeshadow palette, her perfect eyeshadow palette. And I love how alike we are in our preferences, because that turned out to be my dream eyeshadow palette as well. Like, I will show you and I will explain myself as well. So this is what it looks like. And again, I guess the main thing for me in an eyeshadow palette is the versatility, because having a dark brown matte, a black matte, and a dark burgundy is like, you've made my day. Like, amazing. Like, absolutely, yes, thank you. Then we have cool tone browns, so I could create a cool tone look. We have warm tone browns in case I wanted warm tones, and pinky browns, and a gold in case I want gold, which I never do, but what if I do? And then on top of all of these beautiful, yummy textures and colors and just unique, absolutely unique color stories, like every little quad, whichever way you look, creates a different color story. On top of all of that, we get one of the most beautiful actual geochromy shimmers ever called Vision. So this one is amazing, amazing. It looks so impactful on the eyelid. So gorgeous. So because of that versatility and how many different looks I can create with this palette, this is a number two, but maybe number one. I still don't know. So good, so gorgeous. This is what the brand is for me. This absolute genius of a color story. That is why I think that Roxo was just not giving this level of geniusness. Is that even a word? I don't know, but I just absolutely love this. So good. Insane eyeshadow palette. Like, amazing. And then we are moving to number one. Okay, so number one for today, because maybe it could be number two tomorrow. But yeah, this is the cool tone version of the I Need a Warm eyeshadow palette. This is the I Need a Nude eyeshadow palette, and it came out last year. It is a beautiful cool tone color story. It's nothing more than that. But the beautiful versatility of textures here and just how much I fell in love with some of these formulations makes me want to put this on number one. And especially because these matte shades, they are not gray. They're like truly cool tone browns, and they look really beautiful in the crease of the eye. If you like that cool tone matte look, I love that there is a deep brown here again. I could do an eyeshadow wing, I could do a smoky eye with it. And this shade, and this was a new formula she introduced in this palette, it's just so unique and so beautiful. I'm a huge fan of these like taupey shimmers. In case you didn't notice, I like all of my top three favorite eyeshadow palettes have a variation of this type of look, a taupey shimmer and like a grayish cool tone matte. That's a must-have for me in a palette, apparently. But yeah, I love that. I love that there is a hint of warmth as well. I love the really dark accents here. And this like pink all of a sudden is just really inspiring and really beautiful. But overall, it's just a neutral palette that I would reach for. I do reach for my Makeup by Mario all the time for a neutral look, but when I do remember that I have this palette, I do reach for this palette. It's a really stunning, beautiful palette. And I remember that it was like a sensation, sold out immediately, like really good launch for the brand as well. So I'm not the only one who loves it so much, but yeah, this is my number one for today. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for watching. That is all for today. I had so much fun ranking these palettes and I hope you had fun watching this video. Let me know which palette is your number one from the entire Natasha Denona universe. I want to know your opinion, if you agree with me. If you don't agree with me, do not forget to use the code Anastasia15 if you purchase products off of their website. It helps me out quite a bit. And thank you so much for watching. I love you guys and I will see you in the next one. Bye!